The sky was quiet, but silence never meant safety. Far above the earth, hidden behind the dark of space, something watched. The first signal did not come with fire or light, but with a whisper in the stars. Satellites picked it up first, a strange coded message repeating again and again. At first, scientists thought it was nothing more than static. But the pattern returned every night, the same rhythm, the same alien voice. The words became clear after weeks of work: surrender or be destroyed. Governments across Earth froze. People on every continent stopped to listen when the news spread. The voice was cold, metallic, without mercy. Humanity had always wondered if it was alone. Now the answer was here, and it came with a threat. No introduction, no friendship, no warning. Only an order. The unknown speakers called themselves the Seraphis. They demanded Earth's leaders to lower all defenses, hand over control, and accept alien rule. If not, invasion would come. The clock was ticking. The first days were filled with panic. Some believed it was fake, a trick. Others felt terror, hiding in their homes, watching the skies with fear. But inside the halls of power, leaders argued. Could Earth even fight a force advanced enough to speak across galaxies? No ship on Earth had ever gone beyond the moon. No weapon had ever faced alien technology. Still, the idea of surrender felt like death. Humanity had suffered wars before, had fallen and risen again. To kneel without a fight was impossible for many. Far away in a hidden base beneath the mountains, a group of commanders met. They were chosen from different nations but shared one goal: survival. General Marcus, a man with gray eyes and a scar from old battles, stood first. "They think we are weak," he said. "They think fear will break us before war begins. They do not know humanity." His words carried across the room, heavy and sharp. Around him sat soldiers, scientists, and leaders who had sworn not to surrender. They had seen history. Every empire that tried to crush humanity had one day fallen. Why should aliens be different? Above Earth, the first Seraphis ships appeared. Black shapes cut across the sky, seen by telescopes and cameras. They looked like knives, long and sharp, glowing with unknown power. Crowds filled streets to watch them, fear and awe mixing in their eyes. Some cried, some prayed, some shouted to the heavens. But in the command rooms, plans were already moving. Humanity would not kneel. If war came, Earth would answer. The Seraphis did not land, not yet. They sent another message, this time with images. Vast cities burning, worlds collapsing into fire, alien armies marching on broken lands. "This is your future if you resist," the voice said. "You will be ash beneath our feet." For many, hope wavered. But for others, something burned stronger. Humanity had been warned, but humanity was stubborn. Every soldier knew one truth: sometimes the fight itself gave meaning, even against impossible odds. General Marcus turned to his team. "We cannot outmatch their ships. But we know Earth better than they do. Every city, every mountain, every ocean. This is our home. And a home is defended, no matter the cost." His words spread like sparks in a storm. Plans formed in secret. Scientists began shaping weapons from technology barely tested. Hackers studied the alien signals, searching for weaknesses. Pilots trained for battles that seemed impossible. Ordinary men and women prepared too. Farmers, builders, workers, students, every hand ready to defend. The world waited in suspense. News networks ran 24 hours a day, showing ships floating in orbit. Alien shadows covered the stars. Children asked their parents if tomorrow the sky would burn. And in quiet corners, people whispered stories of courage, of resistance, of how humanity had always risen from dust to fight again. Fear lived in every heart, but so did fire. One night, without warning, a beam of light struck down from the orbiting ships. It tore into the desert, carving a crater the size of a city block. No lives were lost, but the message was clear: they could destroy, easily. Panic spread again. Crowds filled streets, demanding answers, demanding safety. The Seraphis voice returned. Last warning. Kneel or fall. The world was trembling. But deep underground, General Marcus gave his own answer. His message was sent not only to leaders but to all humanity. His voice was steady, without fear. We will not kneel. We are the children of Earth. We are born from fire, from storms, from endless struggle. If you want this world, come and take it. But know this, you will regret it. Across the world, people listened. Something stirred inside them. The fear was still there, but now it had a companion, defiance. Humanity had been challenged, and humanity had chosen. The war was not yet fought, but already, the Seraphis had made a mistake. They thought Earth would surrender. Instead, Earth had declared war. The night sky burned with silent ships, but below, hearts burned brighter. The story of the first day would be remembered forever. The day aliens demanded defeat, and humanity answered with a promise. A promise that the Seraphis would regret. The night after humanity's answer, the Seraphis ships grew brighter in the sky. Their dark surfaces reflected the sunlight like black blades hanging over the planet. People could see them without telescopes now. Every child pointed at them, every soldier stared at them, and every leader feared them. The war had not started yet, but it was already everywhere. In hearts, in whispers, in the silence before storms. General Marcus walked through the underground command base. His steps echoed in the halls as screens flashed news from every corner of the world. He saw reports of panic, but he also saw something else. Factories working day and night, young men and women joining defense units, scientists refusing to sleep as they built machines that might give hope. Humanity was afraid, yes, but humanity was moving. The Seraphis sent no reply to Marcus's message of defiance. Instead, they began testing Earth's defenses. A small drone, black as night, entered the atmosphere. It moved faster than any jet, silent as shadow. Radar caught it, but missiles could not lock on. Fighter jets chased it, but it vanished like smoke. Hours later, it reappeared above a military base in Asia. It hovered, scanned, then left. Not a single bullet touched it. The message was clear. The aliens were watching, measuring, planning. Leaders across the world argued again. Some said Earth should surrender before it was too late. Others said resistance was the only path. Marcus's voice carried strongest. They believe we will fight each other while they prepare to strike. We will prove them wrong. We are not nations now. We are one world. It was not easy, but slowly, nations began to share secrets. Old enemies sent weapons to each other. Scientists who once worked against one another now worked side by side. It was not perfect unity, but it was enough. Meanwhile, the Seraphis began their second move. Without warning, one of their ships launched a beam at the ocean. The water boiled, waves rose high, and storms formed around the strike. Thousands of fish floated dead. Satellites recorded it, and the video spread across Earth. The aliens were showing power without yet killing people. Fear returned stronger. If they could boil oceans, what could stop them from burning cities? In a small town, a boy named Daniel looked at the sky with his father. "Will we die?" he asked. His father, a farmer, placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe," he said honestly. "But before we die, we fight. That is what humans do." Across the world, conversations like this happened in homes, in schools, in fields, and in cities. The idea of fighting was no longer just in the hands of soldiers. It was in the blood of everyone. Back in the command base, Marcus stood with Dr. Alara, one of the world's brightest minds. She was young, her eyes sharp with determination. She pointed at the alien signals on her screen. "They are not perfect," she said. "Their code has patterns. That means it can be broken." Marcus leaned closer. "Can we hack them?" Ilara nodded slowly. "Not yet. But if we keep working, maybe we can turn their own power against them." For the first time, Marcus smiled. It was small, but it was real. The Seraphis grew impatient. On the 7th day after their warning, they attacked. 3 beams of light fell on 3 different places, one on a desert military base, one on a port city, and one on a mountain facility. Explosions shook the earth, fire rose to the sky, and thousands of lives were lost. The world cried out in anger and grief. It was the first blood of the war. The Seraphis voice returned, louder, colder. This is the cost of resistance. Tomorrow, more will burn. But this time, humanity's answer was not silence. Fighter jets scrambled into the air. Missiles launched from hidden sites. Drones, old and new, filled the skies. None of them could reach the alien ships, but something else happened. People refused to run. Firefighters rushed into burning cities. Soldiers dug in around ruins. Ordinary people carried the wounded on their backs. Even in defeat, Earth showed defiance. General Marcus looked at the burning maps on his screen. His eyes were hard, but his voice steady. "They have begun their war," he said. "Now we begin ours." Orders spread across the globe. Hidden weapons were activated. Submarines moved into deep waters. Bases under mountains came alive with energy. And in secret labs, Elara and her team worked to crack the alien code, searching for the first real strike back. That night, the world was filled with fire and smoke. Cities burned, skies glowed red, and yet, under the stars, the human spirit burned brighter. The Seraphis believed they had shown strength. What they did not see was what they had awakened: unity, courage, and a fire that would not die. The war of survival had begun. Humanity had lost its first battle, but humanity was still standing. And when humanity stood together, even the stars would tremble. The smoke from the first battle still hung in the sky when humanity gathered its strength. The Seraphis had struck hard, but their victory was not complete. Cities burned, bases lay in ruins, yet Earth was not silent. Across continents, people rose from the ashes, carrying the wounded, rebuilding walls, preparing for the next attack. Fear was heavy, but anger was stronger. Humanity was learning. In the underground command base, General Marcus stood before his council. His face looked older, more carved by stress, but his voice held iron. "We cannot fight them in the skies," he said. "Their ships are too strong. But on the ground, in the shadows, we still have power. If they set foot on Earth, we will bleed them." His words turned into a plan, not to chase the enemy where humanity was weak, but to drag the enemy where humanity was strongest, on Earth itself. Dr. Elara had progress of her own. 4 days and nights, she had worked without rest, her eyes burning from the glow of screens. At last, she found a weakness. "Their communication uses a repeating code," she explained. "It is fast, but not perfect. If we can break the pattern, even for a few seconds, we can send false signals. Confusion is our weapon." Marcus nodded. "Then confusion will be the first crack in their armor." The Seraphis were not idle. On the 10th day, their ships opened again, and this time, they released soldiers. Dark figures descended in beams of light, tall and armored, their bodies glowing faintly with strange energy. They were not machines, but they did not look fully alive either. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks, and their voices hissed through the air like knives. The invasion had begun. The first landing was in a ruined port city. The Seraphis soldiers moved with precision, cutting through streets, destroying what little was left. But waiting in the shadows were human fighters. They were not equipped with alien weapons, only rifles, rockets, and the courage of desperation. From rooftops and alleys, they struck. Explosions shook the streets. Seraphis armor cracked under heavy fire. For the first time, alien blood spilled on Earth's soil. News of the battle spread faster than the flames. The world saw that the invaders could bleed, could fall, could die. It was not easy, and many humans died that day, but the symbol was more powerful than the loss. Humanity now knew the Seraphis were not gods. They could be fought. Marcus watched the reports with careful eyes. Every victory, no matter how small, is fuel for hope, he said. Ilara added, and every second we delay them, every confusion we create, gives us more time to grow stronger. Together, they began shaping a strategy: hit fast, vanish, strike again. A war of shadows against giants. The Seraphis, angered by resistance, tightened their grip. They struck harder, sending more soldiers, burning villages, tearing apart defenses. But something was happening that they had not expected. Humanity did not scatter. Humanity adapted. Farmers became scouts, engineers became weapon makers, children carried messages through ruined streets. In every broken city, fighters rose. The war was no longer only armies versus armies. It was humanity itself against the invaders. One night, in a mountain valley, a group of Seraphis soldiers marched through the dark. They scanned the rocks with glowing eyes, hunting for hidden humans. Suddenly, explosions lit the cliffs. Boulders rolled down, crushing alien machines. From caves, human fighters charged, firing, shouting, fighting with everything they had. The aliens fought back with plasma and fire, but the humans did not retreat. By dawn, the valley was filled with smoke and silence. The Seraphis had won the ground, but at the cost of many lives. And each life taken only hardened Earth's resolve. Dr. Ilara's work finally bore fruit. Late one night, her team sent a false signal into the alien network. For 10 minutes, 2 Seraphis patrols fired on each other, believing they were enemies. The mistake ended quickly, but the proof was clear: the Seraphis could be tricked. When Marcus heard the report, he clenched his fist. "We have teeth," he said. "Now we make them bleed more." Still, the price of resistance was heavy. In one city, thousands of civilians were taken as prisoners by the Seraphis. The aliens broadcast their images to the world, showing humans kneeling in chains. The voice of the Seraphis thundered again: "See your fate. You cannot win. Surrender now, and we will spare what remains." But instead of breaking spirits, the sight of prisoners lit a new fire. Families swore to fight until their loved ones were free. Soldiers swore never to kneel. By the 3rd week, the war had changed shape. Earth was scarred, cities burned, but the Seraphis had lost their easy victory. Every day cost them more ships, more soldiers, more time. And time was humanity's greatest weapon. With every sunrise, humans learned more, built more, united more. The Seraphis had believed humanity would break quickly. Instead, they had awakened something ancient, something fierce. Humanity was wounded, but humanity was still standing. And now, for the first time, humanity was not only surviving, they were beginning to strike back. The war had stretched into weeks. Earth's skies were no longer peaceful. Black ships hung above like vultures, and streaks of fire marked every night. Cities were broken, villages burned, and still, the Seraphis had not claimed victory. Humanity bled, but humanity did not bow. For every city they destroyed, resistance grew sharper. For every soldier they killed, 100 more rose with anger in their hearts. In the underground command base, General Marcus studied a glowing map of the world. Red marks showed destroyed cities, blue marks showed resistance cells. For the first time, the blue marks were spreading faster than the red. "They thought we would scatter," he said. "Instead, we are becoming one." His voice carried hope, but his eyes stayed cold. He knew the war was far from won. Dr. Ilara entered the room, carrying a tablet filled with data. Her face was pale, but her eyes shone. "We've done it," she said. "We can break their signals longer now. Maybe an hour, maybe more. Enough to create real chaos." Marcus leaned forward. "An hour is a battlefield. An hour is victory." Plans began to form. Humanity was no longer only reacting, they were preparing to strike. The first real counterattack began in the deserts of Africa. The Seraphis had built a forward base there, a towering structure of black metal, glowing with alien light. It was the heart of their invasion on the continent. Around it stood machines taller than tanks, humming with power. The aliens believed it untouchable. Marcus and his team believed otherwise. Under the cover of night, human forces moved. Trucks carried weapons through dunes, soldiers crawled across sand, and drones flew low and silent. At the same time, Ilara's team released a false signal. For a brief hour, the alien sensors blinked with confusion, showing shadows where none existed and silence where humans moved. By the time the Seraphis realized the truth, the attack had begun. Explosions lit the desert like thunder. Rockets slammed into alien machines, human soldiers stormed the black walls, and fire filled the night. The Seraphis fought back with deadly strength, but this time humanity was not scattered. They moved as one, wave after wave, never stopping. In the chaos, Ilara's signal bent alien orders, making soldiers hesitate, making ships fire seconds too late. It was not much, but it was enough. By dawn, the alien base was a smoking ruin. Human flags rose over black metal. For the first time, humanity had not just survived an attack, they had destroyed a Seraphis stronghold. The world cheered, even in the ruins of their homes. The victory spread like lightning. They can bleed. They can fall. We can win. The Seraphis did not ignore the loss. Furious, they struck harder, burning cities in revenge. But their anger betrayed them. In their haste, they made mistakes. Their ships flew lower, their soldiers pushed forward too fast, and humanity was waiting. In the forests, ambushes burned convoys. In the mountains, snipers pierced alien armor. In the oceans, submarines hunted enemy craft. Every day, small victories piled on small victories, and each one made humanity stronger. Still, the cost was heavy. Millions had already died. Entire nations lay in ruins. Families were broken, children orphaned, cities turned to dust. The Seraphis voice returned again, promising total destruction if resistance continued. "You will fall," it said coldly. "Your struggle means nothing." But humanity had stopped listening. They had found their own voice, in Marcus, in Ilara, in every fighter who refused to kneel. One evening, Ilara stood on the roof of the base, looking at the stars where the black ships still floated. "They are powerful," she whispered to Marcus, who stood beside her. "But they do not understand us." Marcus nodded slowly. "No. They think war is only strength and fire. They do not see the other kind of strength, the strength to rise again after falling." He looked at the night sky, at the enemy waiting above. "That is the strength that will break them." As days turned into nights, a new plan formed. Humanity had shown they could win on the ground. Now they dreamed of something greater, reaching the stars themselves. Scientists began working on old projects, half-finished ships, forgotten technology. If Earth could put even a single human vessel into battle, it would prove something far more dangerous to the Seraphis than weapons. It would prove that humanity could rise to their level. The war was far from over. The Seraphis still held the skies, still rained fire, still believed they could crush the spirit of Earth. But they had already lost the easy victory they wanted. Humanity had taken its first true step, and that step shook the war. The story of the desert victory spread across the globe. In villages and cities, in camps and ruins, people whispered the same words: "We can fight. We can win." The Seraphis had awakened an enemy unlike any they had faced before, an enemy that refused to die, an enemy that would fight until the stars themselves turned against the invaders. The counterattack had begun. And this time, humanity was no longer only defending. Humanity was preparing to take the war to the enemy. The desert victory was not just a battle. It was a spark. From that day, the war changed. The Seraphis no longer fought an enemy that only hid and defended. They now faced an enemy that could strike, destroy, and rise again. For the first time, the invaders felt something they had not expected: resistance with teeth. General Marcus knew this was only the beginning. In the underground base, he gathered his commanders. A map of Earth glowed before them, filled with scars of red. Yet in the corners, blue marks grew brighter, showing resistance cells across continents. "We have proved they can bleed," Marcus said. "But to end this war, We must reach higher. We must take the fight beyond the ground. We must challenge them in the skies. The room fell silent. Humanity had never fought in space, not like this. Their ships were small, fragile, not built for war. Against the Seraphis, they would be dust in the wind. But Dr. Alara stepped forward, her voice steady. We are building something new. Not perfect, not equal to their ships, but ours. We call it Project Dawn. Project Dawn was a desperate idea, using old space shuttles, hidden prototypes, and new weapons crafted from alien scraps. Engineers worked in secret, welding pieces of Earth and Seraphis technology together. It was ugly, unstable, and dangerous. But it was hope. Pilots lined up to volunteer, knowing the chance of survival was thin. They did not care. They wanted to carry the fight into the stars. While the project grew, the Seraphis tightened their grip. They burned forests, crushed cities, and hunted resistance fighters. One night, they descended on a mountain village, capturing hundreds of civilians. Broadcasts of prisoners kneeling in chains were shown across Earth. "This is your future," the alien voice hissed. "You cannot rise against us." But instead of breaking, the world hardened. In the ruins of cities, graffiti appeared. "We fight. We rise. We win." Farmers in the fields carried rifles. Children carved wooden models of human fighters battling alien ships. The Seraphis had wanted to spread fear, but they had planted fury. At last, Project Dawn was ready. The first prototype ship stood tall in a hidden hangar. It was rough, its wings jagged, its armor patchwork. But its engines roared with power, and its weapons burned with stolen alien energy. They named it Defiance. Marcus watched as the first pilots climbed inside. "You are not only flying for Earth," he said. "You are flying for every soul who refuses to kneel." The launch was dangerous. As the engines roared, the ground shook, dust filled the hangar, and flames lit the sky. But the ship rose, slowly at first, then faster, breaking through the clouds. Humanity had returned to the stars, not as explorers, but as warriors. The first mission was simple but deadly: strike at a Seraphis patrol ship. The Defiance rose into orbit, its sensors locking on the black blade-shaped vessel. The Seraphis ship turned, its weapons glowing. For a moment, silence hung in space. Then fire burst across the stars. Missiles from the Defiance streaked forward, explosions lighting the darkness. The Seraphis ship answered with beams of plasma, burning holes through space itself. The human ship shook, alarms blaring, but the pilot held steady. With one final strike, a missile pierced the alien hull. For the first time in history, a Seraphis warship exploded under human fire. The pilot's voice crackled through the command base. "Target destroyed." The room erupted with cheers. Across Earth, when the news spread, people poured into the streets. They sang, they shouted, they raised their fists to the sky. The Seraphis could no longer say they owned the heavens. Humanity had claimed a piece of it back. But victory came with a price. The Defiance was torn apart, its hull ripped by alien fire. The pilot did not return. His ship fell in flames into the ocean. The world mourned, but his name became legend. Songs were written about him, stories whispered in camps and ruins. The first human who killed a Seraphis ship. The Seraphis, furious, unleashed more destruction. Cities burned brighter, oceans boiled deeper, and their soldiers marched harder. But even in their rage, they made a mistake. They showed fear. Their ships moved cautiously now, scanning the skies, hunting shadows. Humanity had put a scar on their pride, and that scar would never heal. Marcus stood beside Alara in the command base, watching the stars. "One ship," he said softly. "One ship against an empire." Alara nodded. And it was enough to change everything. They both knew the war was far from won. Humanity still stood on the edge of extinction. But now, they also stood on the edge of something greater. Project Dawn grew. More ships were built, more pilots trained. Every battle taught them more about the enemy. Every scrap of wreckage became a tool. The war was still brutal, still full of fire and death, but the balance was shifting. The Seraphis had ordered Earth's defeat. Instead, Earth had declared war. And now, for the first time, Earth was carrying that war into the stars. The destruction of the first Seraphis ship had changed everything. For weeks, the invaders had owned the skies, floating above Earth like gods. Now the gods had bled. Humanity had sent fire into the heavens, and the heavens had answered with an explosion that echoed across the world. In cities and villages, people whispered the same words, "They can fall." Hope spread like wildfire, stronger than any weapon. Children drew pictures of human ships defeating alien giants. Soldiers painted the word defiance on their helmets. Even in the ruins of broken cities, people lifted their heads toward the stars with courage instead of fear. But Marcus knew hope alone would not win. In the underground base, he stood over the map, watching Seraphis forces tighten their grip. Red marks still scarred the world. The enemy still controlled the skies, the seas, and most of the land. "They are wounded," he said, "but they are far from beaten." Dr. Alara joined him, her eyes heavy from sleepless nights. "Project Dawn is expanding. We have 3 ships now, maybe more in weeks. They are fragile, but they fly." She paused, lowering her voice. "The Seraphis are beginning to adapt. They are changing their codes, their weapons, their defenses. They are learning, too." Marcus nodded grimly. "Then we must learn faster." The next battles proved her words true. In the cold skies above Europe, the second human ship engaged a Seraphis patrol. This time, the alien vessel moved quicker, its weapons sharper. The battle was short, brutal, and the human ship was destroyed. The pilot's last words were steady. "Tell them I fought to the end." His sacrifice was honored, but it was a reminder. Victory was never simple. Still, humanity refused to stop. The third ship struck in the Pacific, ambushing an alien transport. With stolen Seraphis weapons welded onto its frame, the human vessel burned through enemy armor. The transport exploded, and from its wreckage, strange materials fell into the sea. Scientists rushed to study them, finding new power hidden inside. Each victory, no matter how small, gave Earth another tool. The Seraphis grew angrier. Their voice thundered again across the world. "You delay the inevitable. We have crushed empires greater than yours. We will crush you." But their words carried less weight now. Empires fall. Giants bleed. And humanity was proving it every day. On the ground, resistance fighters struck harder than ever. Ambushes in the forests, traps in the deserts, explosions in ruined cities. Every street, every valley, every ocean became a battlefield. The Seraphis soldiers were stronger, taller, armored with energy, but they were not infinite. And with every battle, humans learned how to break them faster. One night, in the command base, Alara showed Marcus her newest breakthrough. "We can bend their signals longer now," she said. "Not just minutes. Hours. Maybe even a full day if we risk it." Marcus stared at her, realizing the meaning. "A day is not confusion," he said. "A day is war." Plans began for the largest strike yet. Not only to defend, not only to ambush, but to face the Seraphis head-on in space. It was madness. Humanity had only a handful of fragile ships. The Seraphis had hundreds. But Marcus believed in one truth: courage could tilt the scales. When the day came, the skies lit with fire. 5 human ships, patched together with steel, scraps, and stolen alien tech, rose into orbit. Against them, 3 Seraphis patrols moved, their black hulls shining like knives. The battle began with thunder. Missiles streaked across the void, beams tore through darkness, explosions flared brighter than stars. One by one, the human ships took damage. One exploded, pieces falling like meteors into the sea. Another spiraled, burning in the atmosphere. But the others fought on, striking at weak points, bending alien signals, forcing mistakes. For every human ship lost, an alien ship burned. By the end, wreckage drifted in silence. 2 Seraphis vessels were destroyed. Humanity had lost 3 ships, but for the first time, they had won a true battle in space. The news spread like lightning. Across the world, cheers echoed through ruins, through camps, through shattered cities. Humanity was no longer only defending Earth. Humanity was contesting the stars. But the Seraphis were not done. Their pride was wounded, their fury boiling. High above, their fleet began to move. More ships, larger ships, began descending from the darkness. Their full strength was finally coming. The easy war they had promised was gone. Now they wanted to crush humanity completely, to erase Earth as a warning to all others. Marcus stood on the command deck, watching the sky burn with enemy shapes. His voice was low, steady, but unshaken. "They are bringing everything," he said. Ilara stood beside him, her hands trembling, but her eyes fierce. "Then so will we." Humanity had entered the stars, bloodied but unbroken. And now the greatest battle was coming, the battle that would decide if Earth lived or if Earth turned to ash. The sky was no longer stars. It was fire. The Seraphis had unleashed their full fleet. Hundreds of ships, larger than mountains, darker than night, filled the heavens. Their glow turned the oceans red, their shadows stretched across continents. The voice of the invaders thundered across Earth for the last time. "Your resistance is finished. Today, your world dies." But humanity was ready. The deserts still smoked, the cities still burned, the oceans still boiled, but Earth still stood. From bunkers, mountains, and ruined cities, every human heart had turned into a weapon. Farmers held rifles. Workers carried bombs. Scientists manned controls. Pilots climbed into ships built from scraps and hope. This was no longer a war of armies. This was all of humanity rising as one. In the underground command base, General Marcus stood before the screens, his face lit by fire and steel. His voice carried across the comms to every soldier, every pilot, every fighter. "They want our surrender. They will have our answer. We fight not for victory alone. We fight so that no empire will ever again think humanity will kneel." His words spread like lightning, filling the world with courage. Dr. Ilara gave her own message, her voice calm, almost gentle, but stronger than steel. "Their machines are powerful, but they are not perfect. We have broken their code. Today, we will turn their weapons against them. Today, the Seraphis will learn what it means to fight Earth." The final battle began. From hidden hangars, dozens of human ships launched, their engines burning bright. They were small, fragile, patched together with alien scraps, but they flew with fire in their hearts. Behind them, missiles streaked into the sky, drones swarmed upward, and the oceans opened as submarines fired torpedoes into the dark. The Seraphis fleet answered with thunder. Beams of plasma tore across the sky, burning ships, cities, oceans. Explosions shook the earth. Yet humanity did not stop. They struck back, bending alien signals, sending false orders into the fleet. For moments at a time, Seraphis ships fired on each other, their beams tearing through their own formations. Confusion spread. In orbit, the battle raged. Human ships darted like insects, striking weak points, vanishing into clouds of wreckage. Every strike cost lives, but every explosion of an alien vessel gave Earth more hope. The Seraphis were powerful, but they were slow to adapt to chaos. And humanity was chaos. Humanity was fire, storms, and storms could not be caged. On the ground, battles raged in every street. Seraphis soldiers marched into cities, but they found not silence, not fear, but ambushes. Explosions tore through alleys. Snipers struck from rooftops. Even children threw fire from shadows. Earth itself fought them, mountains collapsing, rivers flooding, deserts burning. It was not just armies, it was a world defending itself. In the command base, alarms screamed. A Seraphis mothership, larger than any before, was descending over the capital. Its weapons glowed, enough to burn half a continent in one strike. Marcus looked at the screens, then at Ilara. That ship decides this war, he said. Ilara's hands shook over her console. Then we use everything. Project Dawn's last ship stood ready. Larger than the others, built with every piece of stolen tech, powered by the strongest reactor Earth had ever made. Its name was written in white paint across its black hull, Humanity. Marcus himself climbed aboard. His soldiers tried to stop him, but his voice was final. A leader must stand where the fight is hardest. The ship roared into the sky, engines screaming, fire trailing across the clouds. Human fighters cleared the path, sacrificing themselves as the mothership's beams lit the heavens. The Humanity charged forward, missiles firing, shields burning, tearing through alien fire. Inside, Marcus guided it straight toward the giant ship. Ilara stayed behind, her hands flying across her console. She bent the Seraphis signals one last time, forcing the mothership to hesitate, just for seconds. Those seconds were enough. Marcus's ship broke through the shields, dove into the enemy's heart. His last message echoed across Earth. Remember this, humanity does not kneel. Humanity rises. The explosion was brighter than the sun. The Seraphis mothership shattered, fire tearing through its core, splitting it into pieces that fell burning into the atmosphere. The rest of the fleet faltered, signals broken, leaders destroyed. One by one, their ships began to retreat, vanishing into the darkness of space. The invasion was broken. On Earth, silence followed. Smoke filled the skies, ruins stretched across the land, but humanity was still there. People stepped out of bunkers, out of rubble, out of shadows, looking up at the stars. For the first time, the sky was empty. The invaders were gone. Dr. Ilara stood alone in the command room, her hands trembling, tears on her face. Marcus was gone, but his words lived in every heart. Around her, the survivors began to cheer, weak at first, then louder, until the sound of victory shook the air. Humanity had suffered. Millions were lost. Cities were dust. But they had won. They had fought the Seraphis, an empire of the stars, and forced them to flee. Earth was broken, but Earth was free. And in the silence of the aftermath, one truth burned brighter than all the fire. The Seraphis had made their greatest mistake. They had believed humanity would surrender. Instead, humanity had taught them regret. The story would be told forever, the day when aliens ordered Earth's defeat, and humanity declared the war that no empire would ever forget.